Welcome to episode 12 of The Blueprint. There's going to be no lesson today, but we'll be taking you through our shoulders and arms workout, and I'll also be giving you an update on our cut, what's to go with my competition and what's ahead. Basically, I don't think the competition's going ahead given Victoria's still under stage 4 lockdown. If we're lucky, the lockdown will go to stage 3 within the next couple of weeks. And if I'm being honest, I don't think I've put 100% into this prep, just at the back of my mind, not knowing whether a competition is going to be going ahead, whether there's going to be people actually competing. And also, we bought weights about 6 weeks ago and it still hasn't come yet. It was supposed to come around 3 weeks ago. We've been doing the best we can with our body weight workouts. We do have dumbbells. It goes up to around 15, 17 kilos. We are trying to do as much as we can with the limited equipment that we do have. To be fair, we do have more equipment than most. So in a sense, we are privileged, but the situation isn't ideal for this prep. And I think the plan ahead would be for me to compete in March or October next year instead, where I'll actually have proper time to prep and be able to train optimally the way I had planned it. But anyway, today's workout was a shoulders and arms one. So we're still doing a push-pull leg split. So after we do push-pull legs, on the 4th day, we might not be fresh enough to repeat the split. So we might do an accessory day. I typically do arms and shoulders. That's something that I'd like to bring up. And in this session today, it's not heavy weight, it's all lighter weight, maybe 70 to 80% of what I would normally do, but I will try to go for the 12 to 20 rep range. I'm really trying to get blood into the muscle and focus on the contraction, the form, the technique. It's something that I wouldn't be able to typically do in a normal push-pull leg split, since when I do my accessory stuff like shoulders and arms, they will be after the big compound exercises. So I won't be able to put 100% into it. I'll reserve a day where I get to go through all the accessory movements and really get to complete those exercises when I'm fresh rather than when I'm worn out at the end of the workout. So starting off with all our upper body workouts, we start off with some side raises. And the technique that I've recently learned, and it's really helped me with my shoulder health as well, because as you guys might know, I do have a shoulder impingement on my right side and a lot of movements aggravate that, and shoulder raises is one of them. But now with the new technique that I've been trying out for the last couple of weeks, it feels a lot better on my shoulder. So what I do is I would sit on a bench, or you can do it standing. I'll lean over forward a little bit and then I will raise 45 degrees rather than going flat out to the side. If you actually look at your shoulders, if you look at the plane in which the muscles attach to the bone, it's actually more advantageous for you to go out 45 degrees, lean forward, as opposed to being upright and going out to the side. You can see that when I'm leaning really upright, going out to the side, there's a lot of anterior delt work involved, as opposed to when I'm leaning forward, it'll be more towards the lateral and the rear deltoid, which is what I'm trying to build up. And guys, if you are serious about bodybuilding or training or trying to sculpt your physique, shoulders is probably one of the most important aspects of that. That's how you get the X-frame. The X-frame is when your body looks like this, have a really small waist, wide shoulders, big legs, and that's what I would determine to be an aesthetic physique. And that's what I'm trying to build towards, especially if I'm going to be competing. And it's all about these nuances in your training that really has an impact on your end physique. After we did about 3 or 4 sets of shoulder raises, we did our first superset, and that would be dumbbell supinated bicep curls, superset with overhead cable extensions. And the premise behind these 2 exercises is that I like doing unilateral exercises, meaning using dumbbells as opposed to barbell, because you really get to focus on each side individually. And I get to really focus on the technique. When I'm doing barbell, you might be putting in 55% effort on one side and 45% on the other, and the bar can still look even because one side is putting in more effort than the other. When if you're doing it unilaterally with dumbbells, you can't put more effort into one side than the other if you're going at the same speed, because they're actually working independently of each other. So I did around 15 reps of this, and what I'm focusing on is flexing my triceps at the end of the movement, because when you flex your tricep at the bottom, you know that your bicep is fully stretched. and then I would focus on keeping my shoulder blades down, my elbows tucked in, and then I would curl. And at the top, I would hold it for half a second and really focus on the eccentric going down. And how I think about it is, I think about the dumbbell being as furthest away from me as possible on my way down, because the further the dumbbell is away from you, the longer the moment arm is, the more stress on your bicep. On your concentric part of the movement, if you're keeping the dumbbell close to you as you're going down, you're actually reducing that moment arm, reducing the resistance, essentially making the exercise easier. So if you're making this exercise easier as you progress in that rep, you're not getting a consistent resistance curve. After we did the biceps, I did the overhead tricep extension. And the reason why I like doing it like this, leaning forward against the machine, is I get a full stretch. When your elbow is extended above your head, you get a full stretch in your tricep. I focus on keeping my arms still throughout the movement until the end, and then I'll stretch above my head to get the last stretch and then complete the rep. Again, we're doing around 15 reps of this. And the reason why I like to superset biceps with tricep is they're antagonistic muscles. So triceps are opposite of biceps. So after a big set of biceps, I will then get to rest by training triceps. So the intensity of the bicep exercise doesn't have a very big impact on the intensity of your triceps. If you're supersetting 2 bicep exercises, your second exercise isn't gonna get the same intensity because you're running low on stamina since you've used it on your first exercise. After those 2, we wanted to give our biceps and triceps a bit of a rest, so we moved over back to shoulders again. And then again, I'm doing a variation of a lateral raise because that's something that we're really trying to bring up. And if you actually notice, your lateral deltoids can actually take quite a lot of abuse. And here's an example. When you're fresh into the gym, try to do lateral raises, and whatever your max is, chances are you're probably gonna be able to do the same weight at the end of your workout. It recovers very quick, and it's very hard for you to be sore on your shoulders because it can just take a lot of abuse. It's one of those muscles that is so active, and it's responsible for the movement of your scapula, your arms, everything. And because it's so resilient to that type of activity, you have to put a lot of stress in it for you to get optimal benefits. So with this variation, I did it hanging from the machine. And the reason why I was hanging from the machine is it puts my body at a slight angle. And what this does is at the bottom of the movement, I have no tension in my shoulders because the plane of resistance is in line with the plane of my muscle because the weight's hanging down. But now that I'm hanging to a side at an angle, and at the top, I get more of a contraction because I'm leaning into it as well. And my mental cue in this one is to resist the temptation to raise your shoulder blade. Because as you struggle, you're gonna wanna try to cheat and complete the rep using all the muscles in your body, but keeping your shoulder blades down ensures that you're keeping the stress pinpointed on your shoulders only, rather than utilizing some assistance from your traps. I just think about the elbow being the highest point in the movement and trying to get the dumbbell as far away from my body as possible. And once I've done that, I moved over to upright rows with the barbell. Again, it's very lightweight, but it's actually quite challenging. I try to get around 15 reps, try to focus on the technique, getting full stretch at the bottom and trying to contract at the top as much as I can. And with this exercise, how I do an upright row that's good for my shoulders is that I try to keep the bar away from my body. As opposed to doing the upright row to my chin, it puts your shoulders in a very uncomfortable position and it aggravates my impingement. But when I do the upright row split apart and also away from my body, it incorporates a lot of my lateral deltoids and my traps as opposed to putting the stress on the actual shoulder joint itself. After we've done that superset, our arms would have had time to recover. So we're ready to attack our biceps and triceps again. And we're doing hammer curls, superset with some dumbbell skull crushers. Pretty straightforward. I just try to keep my arms still as much as I can. I try to keep my elbow locked in, doesn't move at all. I keep my shoulder locked in, so the only thing that moves is my forearms. I try to keep everything locked. I try to focus on contracting my triceps at the end of the movement, just so I'm getting the full stretch in my bicep. And as I'm trying to curl, I try to make sure that my elbow and my shoulder stays locked at all times. And on my first exercise, I usually like to do the full 12 reps on one side at a time. And then on my following sets, I will then alternate. And the only reason why I like doing that is I like to make the exercise as hard as possible straight from the start. And there's one thing that I should tell you about training is that training should be enjoyable, but it shouldn't feel good when you train. If you're actually training to get better and you want good results, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable on every single rep, every single set. So if you're doing 15 to 20 reps and you don't really feel the exercise until the 15th rep, you're technically doing 15 warm-ups until the 15th rep, until it gets hard, and then you're only trying in the last 5. So essentially in that set, you're only doing a set of 5 rather than 20. When I do a set of 15 to 20, it feels hard from the start. And how I achieve that is by making sure I'm doing everything super slow, focusing on that particular muscle. And if I select a weight and it turns out to be too easy, I'll make it hard. I'll put it away from my body, increase the moment arm, make it more difficult or slow it down. I do whatever I can to make the exercise much more difficult using the lightest weight. And using the lightest weight possible is actually better for you than training with heavy weight. I think we throw the term heavy and light around very loosely, and a lot of the times it's not used in the right context. When I mean training with lighter weight, I don't mean training with lightweight. I mean training with lighter weight relative to what you could potentially do. And the reason why I like training in the lighter to medium rep range is I get more quality reps out rather than poor quality reps. I would rather do something with 15 reps, absolutely perfect form. I find that I get much more results out of that as opposed to training with heavy weight, only getting 5 or 6 reps. And you guys will probably notice as well, you won't get as much of a pump or it won't feel as sore. So in a sense, it's not as beneficial for building muscle in the lower rep range. And it's actually safer as well because I'm training with the lowest weight possible while getting the most results. So for me, that's a benefit. After we do hammer curls, I will superset that with our skull crushers. I'm trying to keep my elbow towards the back of my head. So that way, when I'm at the end of the movement, I get a full stretch. Again, if you actually notice, the mechanics of the skull crusher is very similar, if not identical, to the cable skull crusher. And the reason why I'm focusing on these 2 exercises is there has more emphasis on the rear tricep. And the rear tricep is what gives you the 3D look in your arms. It gives you a bit of thickness when you're wearing a shirt, and it adds overall thickness in your arms. If I had to choose only 2 exercises for tricep, that would definitely be an overhead extension of some kind. And in this case, it was the cable overhead extension and skull crusher. And that concludes our workout. It's quite short. It took us maybe 45 minutes, but at the end of the day, it's quality over quantity. And there's no point going into the gym doing a million exercises half-assed. You'd rather do just a select few and really focusing on improving it between each session and focus on the quality of each rep. Remember, we've said this before on the channel, every rep is not just moving it up and down or back and forth. Every rep has an eccentric and concentric part of the movement, and you need to focus on both. If you're only just doing the concentric part of the movement and not the eccentric, you're only getting 50% out of the exercise. Make sure your workout sessions is quality over quantity and that you're progressively overloading on each session. And even though the situation the last couple of weeks for us hasn't been ideal, we have still tried to make the most we can of the situation that we have, and we're ensuring that we're progressively overloading on every session. And again, to reiterate the 4 pillars of progressive overload, you can either increase the weight, the time under tension, the frequency, and the volume. So as long as you're beating yourself in your last session using one of those 4 pillars, you're gonna improve, you're gonna get better. And as long as you're eating enough to recover, results will just come over time.
Hello guys, today I'll be showing you how to make a brownie in a mug. It will take 2 minutes, and these are the ingredients we'll need today. We'll need coconut flour, some cocoa, baking powder, protein, any type that you want, and some sugar-free sweeteners. This is a special one that we found at Coles. It's a hot chocolate sweetener, so it's got a little chocolatey taste to it as well. And over here are optionals ingredients. So we like to add 1 tablespoon of coffee as well, I'll show you later, and some berries on top, and some maple syrup. I'll show you how to make it now. First off, we'll need half half a teaspoon of coconut flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, one teaspoon of cocoa, and 2 teaspoons of sweetener, or it depends how sweet you like yours. Now we'll add 70 ml of almond milk. Okay, coffee is optional for you guys, but when you add it, it will give a little kick to the brownie and it tastes really good. So 1 teaspoon. Now you mix it all up. We're gonna microwave this for 45 seconds and then we'll take it out and add the protein in. 45 seconds.
A few moments later.
We're gonna give this a good stir. Now we're gonna add in our 1 scoop of protein. The reason why we add the protein after we heat it up is so the protein won't be overcooked, or else the brownie will be very dry. So you add the protein and then you give it a good mix. Now we're gonna microwave this for 20 seconds. Here you go. This is what it looks like. This is the perfect texture where it's still a bit gooey but it's not too dry. And there's still bits of chocolates in there. Alright, we'll add in 80 grams of yogurt. This is optional. Add in some berries as well. If you guys have strawberries, raspberries, or blueberries, any is fine. Chuck it in. And now you guys top it off with some maple syrup. Drizzle it. Oh, yeah. Let's take a spoon. And this is the texture of our brownie. Still nice and soft and gooey. So good. Now I'm gonna eat. So good. Macros is so good as well. Very low calories. And that's it. See you guys next time.
Like, subscribe, please.
Like and subscribe, please.
Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I forgot to mention in the last part of the video that because I'm not competing anymore, I do have a new objective. I'm gonna be competing in the Chris Bumstead 8-week challenge. And similar to the contest, the only reason why I'm doing it was because I wanted to set myself a deadline and a goal. But in addition to that, I think this will be a really good opportunity for us to get exposure if we do well in the contest. And I think this is gonna be super competitive. It's gonna have a lot of people from all around the world, all walks of life, from all levels of experience and training, and all different body types. So I'm interested in the challenge. That's what excites me. And like I said, since episode 1, aim for a goal that you might think is unachievable, but because you're trying your best, you're gonna get your best. What's the saying? Aim for the stars and aim for the moon and land among the stars. So that's gonna be our objective. The competition starts at the end of this month and it goes on for 2 months until November. And for us, because we're in Australia, that ties perfectly with summer. And so Hang and I, we're gonna be upping the dial and really cranking everything up over the next 8 weeks to finish our transformation. We've dieted for 3.5 months now. Initially, this whole series was only gonna be 16 weeks, but as you know, life happens and things change, and it's not important that we've taken longer than we had initially expected. What matters is we kept going. Every week there was new hurdle. At the start, when we started this blueprint, lockdown happened. We didn't have access to a gym. We had to train at a friend's house, and then lockdown then increased. We weren't able to train. We had to build and buy our own equipment. And then during that time, work started to escalate as well. And just like with everyone has their story. This is just our story, how we managed to make it through. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what cards you've been dealt, just do the best you can with the cards that you have. And this just happens to be ours. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And we'll see you guys next week or the week after. Peace.
Peace out.